Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Poultry Network Podcast. My name's Tom Willings. Normally, I'd be joined by Tom Woolman. Tom's away this week, so we've got the man himself, Jake Davies. Jake, how you doing?
Hello, very well, thanks. Yeah, just sitting in for Tom on his holidays as we're at the beginning of August. So yeah, good to be here.
Exactly. Well, no, good to have you. We are joined today by Wayne Olbison, Head of Sales for UK and Ireland at Lanxess Biosecurity Solutions. Wayne, thanks for coming on board.
Okay, no problem.
Good to have you here. Just give us a bit of background for anyone who hasn't heard of Lanxess. Could you tell us about the business and your role?
Yes, of course. So Lanxess is a huge global company in all sorts of different chemistries. Lanxess Biosecurity Solutions is a part of Lanxess, and we are primarily focused on agriculture and aquaculture cleaning and disinfection products. I look after the UK and Ireland in terms of sales and advice, and I have a team of 4 guys who are out on the road advising, creating programs and marketing disinfectants and cleaning products.
Cool. Yeah, Wayne, really good to have you with us. I mean, we've known each other for a fair few years, it's fair to say. And we thought we'd ask you to come onto the podcast because of, as we record, it's the 1st of August, and the past week we've had 5 outbreaks of avian influenza on various different flocks. The most recent was late last night, I think, we had 3 cases in Somerset in the last couple of days. So fairly unseasonable and fairly worrying, really, I guess, because this is normally the quiet time for avian influenza. So I guess the message is vigilance is required year round, but obviously we're looking at coming into the autumn, which is typically when avian influenza rears its ugly head again, as we say. Yeah. So we thought we'd ask you for a few tips and tricks and best practice bits and bobs for biosecurity. Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Well, happy to help, happy to be here. And I think you're right. I think it is a little concerning, a little worrying, because we've had a couple of relatively quieter winters compared to previous years in terms of AI outbreaks and infections. And we've only recently had the all clear for AI in the UK and Ireland. And it's a little bit surprising to see we've had these cases in quick succession. I think it just goes to show that AI is potentially endemic in the UK now in the wild bird population. It's probably a little bit more prominent in the winter months, the autumn winter months, because of the migratory season, which increases it. But I think ordinarily we do have that situation ongoing throughout the year now.
In terms of good biosecurity on a farm, it always it probably sounds to many farms as though it's a bit of a throwaway comment. If you told people to increase their biosecurity, that's it, job done. But in practice, with your experience in your role, what does good biosecurity actually mean, and what does it look like?
I think that's interesting, Tom, because different people have different opinions on biosecurity. I think some people think biosecurity is the end of the cycle where you muck out, you wash out, you disinfect. And some people think it's continuous biosecurity, which is happening during the cycle while the animals are in-house. I think it's a combination of both. I think also we have to be... It's difficult to try and not say the wrong thing, because everyone does things slightly different and everyone's got a different opinion on biosecurity. And biosecurity is not sexy, let's be honest. It's a bit of a dual subject. It gets driven down farmers' throats all the time. But it of course, is very important. If we don't observe good biosecurity, then we are leaving ourselves open for these infections and these cross-contaminations and pathogens to thrive. So I think it looks different for different people. But I believe the first day of the next cycle is the first day after the birds have gone from the previous cycle, because whatever you may have experienced, you want to remove that and stop that cross-contamination, that carry over into the next cycle. That's very important. Some people prefer to, particularly farmers, clean and disinfect their own houses. Some people use in-house cleaning teams if you're particularly an integrator, and some people use service providers. Everyone does it slightly different, but I think it's just getting everyone to do it right. There's a right way and there's a fast way, and the fast way is not always the best way.
From your point of view, I really want to kind of drill into, the pitfalls. If it's more difficult to say, look, here's the one size fits all approach that constitutes good biosecurity, then what's the other side of that coin, where you can say these are some of the areas where people that then, well, whether they suffer the consequences of poor biosecurity and their flock succumbs to disease or otherwise. This is the practice that you've seen that actually is definitely not best practice. Where does it go wrong? Where does it fall down?
Again, I think there's two answers to this. There's the one that I consider to be continuous biosecurity. So you've got animals in houses, the birds are in the chicken sheds, turkey sheds, whatever species it may be. So from that point of view, you need to be making sure you have minimise visitors, make sure you're washing and disinfecting wheels as visitors come to farm, using dedicated footwear, using hand sanitizer as they go in and out of buildings, and using different footwear if that's the policy in that particular farm. That's biosecurity on the farm continuous. Where that goes wrong very often, and I've seen this, we do a lot of audits for customers and give them reports and feedback, but very often you'll find, this is where it goes wrong, a wheel wash, for example, on a farm might not be working, or it might have a tube or from the pump directly into the disinfectant, but the disinfectant drum's empty, so you're just washing with water. There's all sorts of things like that, and that you'll often find people don't bother doing it if you don't enforce that rule, and if you don't have the product, they don't do it anyway. Then you'll find possibly foot dips, which is, I would consider, the first line of defence before going into a poultry house. They might be already contaminated with lots of debris, so potentially the disinfectant that's in there might already be inactivated because of too much organic matter and too much soiling. They might have no lids, so certain disinfectants are inactivated with UV sunlight. So they're fairly simple things to get right and simple advice. Then you go to what doesn't look good on a terminal hygiene clean out, not getting rid of all the organic matter. If you leave too much dry matter behind, you've spent so much time trying to wash it out, you invariably leave quite a lot behind. Too much organic matter will inactivate the disinfectant or stop it working very well. Some disinfectants need to be applied at a particular percentage, so that's being accurate with that. If for example, it's DEFRA approved at 2% and you do it at 1.5%, you're actually not killing the pathogens. So you need to be accurate with what you're using your product for and the application of that product. And I think it's great that we and other people, to be fair, other businesses, do these inspections, do these audits, so we can highlight to the customer where the improvements could be. It's getting those guys to then adopt those improvement advice.
A lot of detail there to try and unpack. I think in summary, what I think I heard is that washing is one step, disinfection is another. They're not the same thing. You've got to wash off the muck before you can disinfect the surface. And if you don't do that, your disinfectant is going to be inactivated. Wheel washing and foot dips, two kind of key parts in the process. Wheel washing, is that, when you describe a wheel wash, are you talking about a knapsack sprayer at farm gate, or are you talking about a pressure washer, kind of plumbed in, or are you talking about an integrated spray bar with nozzles all the way around the vehicle? What does a wheel wash look like in your mind's eye?
I think the last one you described there is probably optimum. If you could have a drive-through system where top, sides and bottom disinfect as you drive through, that's great. I'm not a big fan of drive-through wheel baths because they just become, A, they're open to UV, B, they become too contaminated to be able to clean on a regular basis. And also the chemical in there might not be friendly to the environment. So you often get spillage around and about. Most people would generally use, and it's sufficient, a knapsack sprayer or a power sprayer or something that's easy to use, always working, and the chemicals potentially kept inside out of UV light. That's probably what most people use. But a drive-through one would be great, so you cover all the vehicle. But they're expensive to install, and you have to have the room to install them. And, there's pitfalls with it, but I think doing nothing isn't an option, is it?
Absolutely.
You've sort of touched on this already, Wayne, but it's something that comes up a lot when you have these kind of conversations. But could you go into perhaps a bit more detail about if you're not using the product at the correct concentration, it's effectively a waste. It's a waste of money almost. Is that fair to say?
I wouldn't say it's a complete waste of money, but you won't be getting the result that you expect. So if whatever chemistry you're using for whatever target pathogen you're targeting, if the approval is of a particular percentage, you really need to use it at that percentage and with that contact time to kill that pathogen or inactivate that pathogen. If you tend to underdose, it won't kill as well. You might get the contact time, but you don't have the amount of chemicals to work in that contact time. So you are, again, I wouldn't say completely wasting your money, but you won't get the end result that you're hoping for.
What about if you mix? I mean, I suppose there's certain interactions of various different cleaning things that can go wrong and become ineffective or do the wrong thing. Is that correct as well?
It is correct, yes. Various advisors will give you various advice. Me personally and our team in the UK, we tend to advise using an oxidizing chemistry first, because an oxidizing chemistry generally targets, not specifically, but generally targets viruses, and they're very good at doing that. The problem with doing that chemistry second is if you apply that to an existing slightly damp surface that's had a previous chemistry on it, it will almost certainly inactivate that oxidizing chemistry, so you don't get that potential virus knockdown. So there is a rotation. You need to use the right chemistry in the right order according to the pathogen that you're trying to target.
Wayne, I wonder as we sort of look to wrap up, if there is, one kind of final take-home message that you would leave with producers as, advice and guidance that they can go and apply on their farm today. What should they go and look out for? What should they do? But then also, if they want some support and they want to get in touch, then how might they go about doing that?
Okay, so for me, primarily, there's three pieces of advice. If you're a farm manager or a farm operator, stop people getting on the farm without disinfecting their wheels or just getting entry unless they need to be there. Have a gate or have some system that they can't get through. Ensure the wheel disinfection facility is actually working and has chemical in it. Make sure that's happening. The first line of defense going into a poultry house is foot dips. Ensure you're using the correct dose. I mean, you can't do anything about hygiene on the farm in terms of terminal while animals are in, but you can do what you can while they're not getting into the animals, the foot dip. Make sure you're using the right chemistry and the right fast-acting chemistry for foot dips. A slight side story here, and I won't drag on too much, but you can go to a farm and ask 4 different people how they mix their foot dips up and probably get 4 different answers. Well, only one of them will be right, potentially. The other 3 won't be right. So make sure you're using the right amount of product with the right amount of water, the right dilution rate that kills the pathogen, does the job that you're expected to do. And I think that they're my 2 takeaway messages: foot dips and wheel wash, and not having visitors that shouldn't be there.
That's really clear. No, thank you so much for coming on. If anyone is interested in looking up more information about Lanxess Biosecurity Solutions or anything to do with biosecurity, then there'll be a great deal more information on the Lanxess website. Or get in touch with us, and we can put you in touch directly
Absolutely.
with Wayne.
Yeah.
It's obviously a really, really worrying time, as Jake said, it being such an unseasonal spike in outbreaks. Let's keep our fingers crossed that there aren't too many more. But for now, that's the end of this episode. Thank you very much indeed for listening, and we'll catch up with you next time.
Thank you.